Good morning. Today is January 16th, 2024, and you have joined the Kubeflow community call. I want to remind everybody that this call is governed by the Kubeflow Code of Conduct. And we also want to make sure that you know that this meeting is being recorded. We have a lot of existing items and things to go through, and then we have some that are on the agenda that are added in. We're going to start with what's on the agenda, and it's particularly the release updates. But I do want to get to some of the open issues that are at the top of this document. Just for FYI, this document has become unwieldy. It's too long. It needs to, some of the older stuff either needs to be archived, but it's very difficult to manage this document at times. So let's go ahead and start, which is this one here. If anybody doesn't have it, we'll put this in the chat in case you can't get to it. But let's go ahead and start with the release updates. I guess Ricardo and Stefano are going to be running this, and we're on release 1.9 first. Stefano, you want to say, you want to take this and see if we can?
Sure. Okay, I'll be quick, since we have a lot to talk about. Try to share my screen.
Oh, here, let me stop sharing.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, give me one sec. Okay, of course, Zoom wants to quit and reopen. Give me one sec. Okay, here I am. Sorry for that, guys. It's been a while since I've been using Zoom. All right, where's my window? Good, here we are. All right, so yesterday we officially kickstarted the Kubeflow 1.9 release process. With that, we started a new board here where we'll be tracking all of the issues very similarly to what we did with the previous releases, so nothing new here. For now, we just have a bunch of draft issues. We'll be tracking various items and work items from our side here. So this is where you'll find the up-to-date state of the release team. So what's outstanding for now? Here we have APR still in draft with the release timeline. Again, it's still a draft, and I guess we'll be discussing it in the next couple of weeks, also with the various working groups. The most important date is the feature phrase. At the moment, we set it at week 13, just like previous releases, that is April 8th. We'll be discussing with the working groups in the coming days whether this is okay with you, and based on the features that we want to ship, and that will be part of the roadmap, based on the capacity of the working groups or the size of these features. We'll be discussing if this makes sense, if we need more weeks. So that will be probably maybe changing. So we'll see next week or in a couple of weeks. Now, again, Ricardo and I, during the next week and the coming week, we'll be joining the various working group meetings to discuss the roadmap. We would target to finalize the public roadmap by January 22nd, latest 25th. That's next week. So we encourage all the working groups to get together, think about the roadmap, start a tracking issue, and come prepared to the next working group meetings. So we'll be discussing that. I think we already have I've got here a running document. I think we already have, yes, we already have the manifest working group. They provided a list of work items for this release. Thank you, Julius, here for putting it together. And I hope we'll manage to put this together quickly with the rest of the working groups. So we've got this document here. We're tracking all of the dependencies based on the versions we want to support. Now we're targeting to support Kubernetes 128. I believe this was discussed with some of the working group leads, and we can continue the discussion this and next week with a stretch goal to support 127.28. And based on that, some other external dependencies. Again, we'll probably get in more details with the various components during other meetings. On a more procedural aspect, there's a couple of folks who propose to help with the release team here, but they're not part of the Kubeflow organization, and they need to be in order to be added to the group officially, formally. So Steve Irvin, in particular, if you're here, we need you. We need to add you to the Kubeflow organization to move forward. And then also Diego, but I think Diego is in sync with Ricardo, so we shouldn't have an issue there. So Steve, if you're here, speak up. Otherwise, I guess we'll.
It's by the way, it says that he's a member there. I don't. Look at his tag on the right hand side.
Is he?
On the right on the no, yeah, on the right. There we go.
No, but this is Ricardo. This is Ricardo
Yes.
commenting here. Steve is not.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Ricardo.
Yeah. So that's the only pending issue as far as the release team is concerned. And we need one more liaison for the actually for the pipelines working group, because Ricardo was the liaison for the pipelines working group so far, but now he's the release manager. So we're missing one. If someone wants to step up, please say so or comment here. Ricardo will also join the pipelines working group meeting tomorrow to discuss that. And then I think we're covered as far as the other liaisons are concerned. Okay, I'll stop for a second. Someone wants to comment, questions, concerns? All right. Now, in terms of roadmap, we were putting together a high-level wish list that I'll just go through briefly. Some of these are more foundational issues about the broader platform and community. Other are enhancements and features. Some of these concern specific working groups. Others are more wide, sort of cross working group issues. So I'll just go through the list, and please speak up if you see something that doesn't look right, or you want to discuss more here.
By the way, before you do that, can you just paste that link into the main doc so that other people can see it?
This document, you mean? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure it's view only, though. Make sure.
It should be. Yeah, it's already visible. And let me do it here. Here. So, top of mind, CNCF. Now I haven't been personally tracking the project onboarding issue, and Amber mentioned that there's a graduation meeting next week. It would be great to have a checklist or a to-do list of things that we want to address within the Kubeflow 1.9 release for the graduation. So maybe Amber, I'll be looking to you to provide a high-level list after this meeting, or if there's other outstanding items which we should have a little bit, visibility into what we want to achieve, whether it's part of the working group or some more, cross working group initiatives, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we'll hold the meeting next week, and I'll go over the assessment that Emily Fox from the CNCF Top did for us. And I'll let you know, according to her assessment, we're only about 16% of the way through. So we'll break it down into a workable checklist next week, and we'll share back with both on the community planning doc and on your doc as well.
Great, thank you. On the security side, I know there's a lot going on. I think a major concern is the process to monitor, address, resolve CVs. That's definitely part of the CNCF graduation process as well.
Yep.
But in terms of security, I know we have a long list with the working group, and so I guess we'll be going through that separately and put it all together into a tracking issue.
Correct. So
yeah.
I can comment on that.
Okay.
Stefano. So we had a meeting today. So in 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have a list or a report that's gonna have the top 10 kind of CVs that we need to address, and we'll be working out a workflow with the working groups, a better workflow for that, and we'll also be able to provide a list of things, and you've got some of them on here, like if the upstreams if a lot of the CVs, for example, are in MinIO because of their license change, do we need to look for a different tool? I think we're already doing that, but just using it as an example. Do we need to look for a different tool where we don't have to pay for licensing, or kind of try to form a partnership with them to see if we can get a special license for us, as long as it's not being used commercially or something like that. But we'll have that list of what, if a lot of the CVEs are found in an upstream tool that we're using, we'll also break out that so we can work with the working groups to decide if we need to upgrade that particular tool or find a different tool to use.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Amber.
You're welcome.
Okay, on the Kubernetes side, I think we'll be proposing testing on 126 and 27 as a stretch goal, with the 21. No, I think this is wrong. I think we're meaning to say 29, with the 28 as the official support version. So this will be stretch goals. Then I'll check back the versions again. Anyway, and then on the on the rootless images and MinIO, I think these have been long-standing issues, and I don't have complete clarity over who's responsible for that, or if there's someone who's actively addressing these issues. Or whether we have, active tracking issues for these topics. Again, Amber, you mentioned MinIO. I think that the security working group has been working on that, on their rootless images. So, if there's someone who has a little bit more clarity on these two, it would be great to bring that up. Maybe copy here, link to issues or PRs or in discussion that's happening out there.
I listed most of them. If you go to the security working group meeting notes, you should see most of the issues and some guidance there.
Okay, on this one, on the rootless images?
On almost everything there, yeah.
Okay.
And otherwise, just reach out to me.
Cool. And then I think another outstanding issue that we've discussed is the consolidation of the container registries, which is now images are sparse throughout Docker, GCR, ACR, bunch of registries. And again, I think this has been discussed in a few past community meetings, but I don't know if there's an issue referencing that discussion, or if there has been any activity around this so far.
I think Matthew is pushing this mostly. He has mirrored already all of the images to GHCR. And I think we wanted to go for GHCR for all working groups in the long term.
To be clear, I haven't done the latest releases images, but I did all the releases pre the migration away from ECR. That was mostly as a protective measure in case ECR went away.
So I would
Okay,
like,
so
sorry for interrupting,
ahead.
Stefano. Yeah, from my perspective, I would like to speak on this more. Like, as I mentioned a couple of times before, we have the official Docker Hub for the Kubeflow, for the Kubeflow brand, basically for the Kubeflow naming. I'm not, like many customers still using the Kubeflow Docker Hub. I'm just not sure if we should just deprecate it and use GCR. Sorry,
What do you mean? No, we're not really. We haven't been using the Kubeflow one for ages.
no, we've been using this for the last 5 years.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's been physically there, but none of I think maybe like 4 or 5 releases ago was the last version pushed to it.
No, Training Operator using this for last 5 years.
Okay, that may be the only image in there then.
No,
if
we
there's any.
also push like KTP images for Docker Hub, but in different repository.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but we all use different repos. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but I mean, like, why we like decided to choose GCR as the official repo for the Kubeflow, right?
Well, there's honestly a lot of discussion as it, but the main reason is that there's actually no limits on it. And because it's right beside the other thing. And also, again, you can push to multiple places.
Have we polled or surveyed the community to see, make sure we're not gonna break any downstreams?
I think most projects are using GHCR at this point, in addition to Docker as an optional other one.
So just for the sake of time and not drag this discussion too long in this meeting, do we have an issue where some of this discussion, was being tracked so far? Do we need to start a new one?
There must have been issues, but I don't exactly remember where they are.
Okay, so let's take it as an action item to find whatever issues we have out there and maybe figure out when and how we can discuss about this more in detail.
Yeah, because I think like from my perspective, this requires like all working groups like opinion, right? Like I'm not sure if it's fair to say like all the projects in Kubernetes using GitHub registry.
Yeah.
But like I would love to speak on this more because we need to consolidate across all the working groups, right?
Totally agree with you. So if there's some other foundational discussion feature improvement that you were thinking about for 1.9, you can mention it in this document here and we can discuss it more. So far, this is the list. Because then I think in terms of new features, at least broad and shiny and big new features, we have the Notebooks 2.0 that I know will be discussed in a couple of days. The Notebooks working group meeting. The LLM API, again, being discussed a lot. There's lots of issues being linked here, and we can discuss it more during that meeting. And then these new initiatives, model registry, Spark integration, was a lot of discussion around establishing a new working group. And I guess now the main blocker here is to make it official, make this working group official, start an official meeting, document and have a plan to release some first milestone and working prototype or baseline or beta or something for Kubeflow 1.9. Now, I don't know if there's some procedural blocker to get started. So if there's someone from these groups, please speak up, or we can also talk offline and then update the document here and figure out if we have any blockers to move forward with these designs. I know on Spark we have a potential dependency on Google transferring the repository, and maybe we need to have a discussion whether it's a good decision to fork or just wait on Google. But again, don't want to drag this along too much. This is it as far as the update from the 1.9 release is concerned. Feel free to update this document and comment if you have some more suggestions.
So, Stefano, great review, fantastic preparation for the release. Thank you to you and Ricardo and everyone. Question. In the P0 list, what is your thought there? Those are actually release blocking if they're not delivered?
That's a very good point. And I think we definitely need to go through this discussion with the working groups. In terms of new features, I guess that we'll have to find some, compromise between saying, hey, we want a full version of this design versus we can afford shipping a beta version or a milestone. I'm thinking of Notebooks 2.0 that will definitely need a transition from the current version. So we'll have to figure out what that means. And in terms of new capabilities, LLM API, model registry, I'm not on top of what's the end-to-end scope of those features. And I'd love to hear from the working groups what's their plan in case the feature cannot be completed within the scope of this release, but still be able to, have a short-term plan to release a beta or an intermediate milestone, something like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree. Ramesh, I guess, has got his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So one question, we are going through the motions of actually the one I want to thank you for the timeline you guys put together, Ricardo and Stefano. That was a little bit different from at least my understanding in my mind that it was at the end of March versus end of the release was end of the June. So this definitely we are going through the motions of what we can as a model registry perspective, what we can deliver towards the 1.9, but if we could deliver something towards that, seems like with the timeline there is a good possibility that we could produce some there. I do want to hear a little bit more on the what's the beta releasing in the beta label. Any advice on that one? That may be something we might take because of the short runway between now and the future freeze date. That might better suit how we want to deliver at least the first incarnation of it.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever released something officially as a beta. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that would be a first. And we would need to think about that a little bit. Probably the best way to go forward with this is to start an official working group meeting to discuss both the model registry and the Spark situation. And then we can discuss it, figure out what's your timeline, what in terms of capabilities, what you think you can deliver, and if that qualifies, as a beta, or should be named something different. You know, we can have that kind of discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Another question. In the schedule, Stefano, we have a pretty large gap between the roadmap being finished to the feature freeze. And usually we try to put in some checkpoints. One checkpoint that I would like to strongly recommend we figure out is gathering user feedback, especially on as many P0s as possible. Be nice to even get a user champion on some of these efforts where they're actually helping the working groups, providing input on design of the feature. I'm wondering, and opening it up to the community somewhat here, is how do should we have a checkpoint for user feedback on this roadmap? And how do we do that?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Totally agree. We should do that. And then on the how, so I think there's lots of ways we could do it, and we need to figure that out. Maybe having some sort of mid-release review, assuming we get together to gather some feedback and have that mid-release review with the working groups based on the feedback, could be something interesting. I just wonder if that makes so, since the development cycle is relatively short, I wonder if that makes sense to do it during the development cycle and not after, for the following release. I understand that, you know, we do want to get feedback as early as possible on what we're building now. Maybe things we commit for this release are a little bit too late to be reviewed by potential users at the same time, you know. So I think we need to figure out what's the best strategy to gather user feedback that's actually useful for features being built, and it doesn't become just, you know, empty feedback that doesn't really get considered during development because it's too late to change plans and designs.
Do we have a list of users who use Kubeflow in production that we like, almost like creating like a Kubeflow advisory or, you know, committee or something, or, you know, like a cab or something? Do we have that list anywhere of willing production users? Or could we put one together?
Probably the companies most dominant, yeah, maybe Canonical. I already talked about this at DHL as well, and all the Capital One.
I guess coming to the top of mind would have been like Canonical, Red Hat, Cap One, and I think there's some others as well. If I look through those, about 170 companies, we could kind of reach out and see if we could put together like maybe 10 or 12 folks willing to give feedback.
Yeah, I think if we can give a level of expectation of what we want them to do and minimize that as much as possible, but maximize the benefit to them, it may help us get participation, even if it's, you know, commenting on particular PRs. But I think that if we would perhaps make a meeting, maybe in one of these meetings, like in early February, to say, hey, we're going to review the P0s, and we're asking the users to show up and provide comment, or to have their comments in on the issues before then, so we can review them. We probably need to continue to review this list in every one of these meetings coming up in some ways, but I think we need to give users some expectation of they can show up and in an hour provide their feedback and be done. Do we need to do it earlier than, I mean, does anybody have a proposed, like, I think Stefano, you thought maybe more in the mid-cycle, but I was thinking early February at the latest, but your thoughts here as the product manager, I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on how quickly we can put that list together. Seems like since we don't have a process in place, seems like a best effort initiative for this quarter, but definitely something we want to put in place. My estimate is it's pretty hard to get it done within 2 weeks, but let's see, maybe we can.
Well, I think the list that we have is pretty good
Okay.
and ambitious, right? We just need probably the PRs and a process for users. And then, what I have found in this community is you have to reach out to people and ask them to do something specific, especially when it comes to users.
Yeah, totally agree.
So maybe we can talk about this at the release team. Anyway, great job by you guys. This is the best product manager we've had. This is the best release planning we've had so far. So I appreciate it.
We always got to keep improving, Josh. That's the idea, I think.
All right. Any update on 1.8.1? I know.
Are we actually going to do one? That's the bigger question. I know that there was a KFD patch, but yeah.
Yeah, Daniela said she was going to do it. I have not. We did not ask her last meeting. She was on the call yesterday. We did not ask her specifically. We need to.
Cool.
All right. All right.
Definitely, we should look at the updates for the steering committee election. Probably, I put that on there, but
yeah. So this is probably very important. A lot of folks engaged here. Does Amber? Do you want to give an update on the steering committee election?
Sure. Let's see, there's been 55 keys sent out, so we're still missing 4 email addresses. They're in the issue. I think 36 out of the 55 have voted, which is really good. I'm hoping that we can somehow get to 100%. So if you haven't voted yet, please do. And then what I'll also do is I can send out an email. I won't send out a second key because there's only 1 key per email. To just send out a link to remind those who haven't voted to vote. And so I'll do that later in the week. And if anyone knows the 4 folks that are on the list that we still haven't generated keys for, please reach out to them and either have them ping me on Slack or send me an email so I can generate their keys and we can say that we've sent out 100%. We sent out keys to 100% of eligible voters. So.
And when's the voting close?
The 29th. And I know that you were like, Amber, can we close it sooner? But I knew we were missing emails and I didn't want anybody to say I didn't have a chance to vote. And at least twice a week, I put a new comment in and tag the people who I don't have emails for. So we'll, it'll close on the 29th, and I'll announce the winners the next morning.
Fantastic. Okay. Maybe we'll keep moving. Unless there's any questions on that.
I
Okay.
guess like just look at that list that I just linked there. If you happen to know someone who's tagged in that list, please connect with them and tell them to talk to Amber and get a voting key.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. James had brought up some things, findings on the Slack. I don't know, James, if you're on, but go ahead.
Hello, Josh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool. So just want to circle back on the topic of the Slack migration to CNCF. I think we probably need to make a decision over here about whether we should migrate from Kubeflow Slack to the CNCF Slack channel. I basically make a connection with the CNCF service stack. They asked me to export the data from the current Slack channel to the CNCF by sending them the current workspace data. So once transferred, we can redirect people to start using CNCF. We will be able to use the channel that are related to Kubeflow to continue the discussion, and history will be preserved. There are previously some discussion about whether we should migrate or not, or ask CNCF to fund our individual Kubeflow Slack channel. The answer is like it's too expensive to sponsor this, because like one person 1 month is cost $8. So for the paid Slack pricing tier, it's going to be too expensive, so it's not an option for CNCF. So I'm proposing to migrate us to CNCF Slack channel, but we don't necessarily need to shut down the current Kubeflow Slack right now, because asking people to migrate take a lot of time. So I would say we should stop allowing people to join the current Kubeflow Slack channel, ask them to go to CNCF, but allowing people some time to migrate, so we can keep the Slack channel open for a while.
But I made a comment there on the I updated the GitHub issue to link to my comment because the other one actually didn't talk about Slack. I strongly oppose moving to the CNCF Slack. It already exists, the CNCF Slack, and we've got less than 100th as many people using it. Like I'm not saying that we couldn't tell people to use it, but like I think just the pure number of Slack channels that we would require would be so extreme that it would just be unreasonable from the CNCF's perspective.
And Amber?
So a fun fact that I don't think a lot of people realize is the Linux Foundation and the CNCF is the largest Slack deployment out there. And so the reason that the CNCF is able to fund this is because they're a test bed for Slack. So they wouldn't be able to pay for us privately, but they get all the services and stuff because they have the largest deployment and they work with Slack. So in case you were wondering, well, how do they pay for that? They don't. They have a deal worked out with Slack because of that. So we get the benefit if we migrate, we get the benefit of all the resources that Slack has to offer by moving to the CNCF. And I think that it'll be bumpy and kind of won't be as smooth as we'd like it to be if we transition there, but we are becoming part of the CNCF. And because they have over 250,000 members, we also have we can gain more insight to what we're doing by being part of that. Being separate, it's just our little community. But when we move over to the CNCF, we can raise more awareness and have more people join because that is such a large Slack deployment.
Look, I think there's nothing against having both, which is pretty much what I proposed. is that we maintain all our normal development stuff on the main official Kubeflow Slack in the same way that the Kubernetes people do. And people who need support about specific Kubeflow components can still come and join there. But people who just want to talk about Kubeflow in general can use one of the 2 existing channels on the CNCF Slack, and we can update the website to say that there's both a general chat on the official CNCF Slack and kind of a more specific chat. Because there's other reasons as well that benefit. Like most of the messages sent are actually sent in private messages right now. So a lot of people are using Slack to keep connected to both develop Kubeflow and talk about Kubeflow. And it's also just been around a really long time. It's been around like probably longer than the CNCF Slack has.
But have we reached out to the CNCF to see if there is a limit? Can we have, how many Kubeflow dash whatever channels can we have? You know,
So basically, I am exporting the current Kubeflow Slack workspace information to them. So that means like how many channel we have today will be exported to the CNCF. So
there is
Oh.
one other big problem though, which is that we can't make default channels on the official CNCF Slack. So by default right now, if someone joins the Kubeflow Slack, they get added to announcements in general, which means that everyone is a member of those. So they get to see all the messages in there. The CNCF Slack, they would have to actively go and find the various channels that they want to join, which would have to include our general chats. So we might actually end up with less users. We have about 10,000 users right now, about 1,000 active weekly.
and I see
Yeah, I put a big
Andrew's
chart there.
up as well. Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, I think my question was about like what Matthew said about the activity. So yeah, we have like 10,000 people, right? And 1,000 they're active right now from the statistic, right, Matthew? You said.
So it depends on the week. During release weeks, we end up with about 1,000. During normal weeks, we end up with about 500 to 900. It really just depends on what's happening. So I put a chart. This is weekly, to be clear as well. And the cumulative total users has been increasing and is still increasing. So like, there's nothing and I think the bigger point is that we get all of the benefits of being part of the CNCF Slack if we just advertise those CNCF channels without any of the drawbacks of having to migrate. And if at some point in the future we see the need to migrate, it's not like that's going to go away, right? The option to do that.
So, okay, my second question, do we know how other communities, like for example, Argo or Kubernetes solve this problem, right? Because like we have the working group or like a government structure, right? CNCF also have a working groups, right? Do we know how like other communities having
So I
these
can see
channels?
that they have one channel per one of their tools, and they're quite big. You know, I can see that they've got 12,900 users on the Argo CD channel, for example. But that's a lot of people for one channel, and effectively is not like it's only useful as a kind of yelling into the wind, hoping someone responds to you type situation. Whereas because we have so many different components, we would have to have many of these. And
No, but
I'm not saying
yes,
this is a big.
sorry.
I'm not saying we can't do that. I know what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we shouldn't at some point do it potentially if we find that we're being limited by the free version of Slack.
are they
Because
using?
sorry, Amber, just last from my side. Yeah, sorry. I think like there is a pros and cons. Like the bigger advantages of having the Slack channel with the history, right? People can always like search for their issues, right? Like because they're so big and so many people actually asking the questions, we probably gonna have like less kind of like questions or problems from the people, right? Because we don't have history today in Slack, in Kubeflow Slack at all, right? So I can see the advantages in this.
Yeah, but I mean, we've kind of always only had the 90 days. Although actually Slack keeps giving us, I don't know if they're noticing the Slack now, but Slack keeps giving us trials now, and we're still on a trial right now. So I believe all history is currently available.
Go ahead, Amber. You want to say something?
Well, I was just saying, I just popped over to Octo and looked at them. Like, I think what they do is they have like their channels in the CNCF Slack, but then they have other community tools, whether that's Google Groups, whether that's Discord or whatever. Like, I think they have other ways of tracking their community and interacting with their community other than that Slack channel.
People definitely comment in their channel, but it is a bit of a screaming match between a lot of people. Do you know what I mean?
I can see the problem is I don't really know how we're going to migrate the working group channels, right? Because like if, for example, like you're gonna have working group data, right? Like so first of all, I need to answer the question, do we need like the working group channels or we just need the components channels? Because we haven't been discussed this yet before, right? Maybe some of the people just want to propose some new tool for example, training, right? Or maybe some tool for data preparation in the future, right? So where they can discuss this.
So I think are you trying to say that Kubeflow is going to keep growing, and it probably will. So the number of channels we'll need will just kind of spiral out of control. Or
yeah, like you know, like because there are like some component specific channels and there are like ML specific channels that probably people also want to discuss under the Kubeflow community, because we do like MLOps on the cloud for a while, right? So I just want to hear like all the community thoughts around like what kind of channels we need if we're going to migrate, and how we're going to merge with existing CNCF, like maybe working group governments, right, channels and other things.
so by the way, in the statistics channel, in the message that I linked in that issue, when I analyzed it on December 13th, we had 38 active channels. And 75% of the activity was private messages. So like most people are using the Slack, not in the public channels, but to communicate with other people who use or develop Kubeflow. And that is the main thing that's hurt. Because like if you're part of the Kubeflow Slack, you're a Kubeflow user probably. And so it helps people find each other. It's like, to be clear, like I'm not saying that we're as big as Kubernetes, and we probably never will be, because by definition we can't be. But like the Kubernetes team does have their own Slack.
I think Kubernetes, maybe I'm wrong here, but I guess like they kind of like force people to migrate to CNCF and they just use it as announcement channels, right? As the Kubernetes Slack, isn't it?
Well, no, the
Like,
Kubernetes Slack is also used to discuss development and other things.
is it actively used by the working group leaders of like different SIGs or working groups in Kubernetes?
As far as I can tell, yeah.
Okay, we've done a lot of discussion on this. We probably need to, one, figure out a path to make a decision, and then two, get some other topics discussed today before we finish. I don't think there's any perfect answer here, right? If we try to do both, we end up with a tax, and you know, the tax is that both of them have to be kept up, and if they're not, then
Well, we actually already have both, to be clear, Josh.
right. And likely the reason why the CNCF one is not growing is because we have the other one, and we're doing not as good a job. Probably, I haven't even gone on the CNCF one, to tell you the truth, to look at it on any regular basis. So I think that if we need to figure out a plan, both to get everyone's feedback and then make a decision. I would like to see this decision made rather soon. Because, you know, like James has got people hooked up inside of the CNCF or in the Slack part of that. And that's hard to get those connections ready and willing to do things. Because if we take a real long time, then, you know, those things go stale. We do need to make a decision on this. So, is this GitHub issue the place where we should be clicked into this? Is this where we're?
So yeah, my proposal for the short term is that we just tell people that the CNCF Slack does exist, and then we see how people end up using it in the next year or so. And then if in the next year there's a significant amount of people using the CNCF Slack, which I somewhat doubt will be the case, then we can delete our Kubeflow Slack. Because also, like, I know that we say we're part of the CNCF, and we are. But like, there's more to it than that doesn't mean we have to be branded under the CNCF in a sense. Like there is a very big project, Kubeflow, in the same way that Kubernetes is, and Kubernetes maintains a brand very independent from the CNCF, and I think we can too.
Maybe I can also make a proposal as well. So I understand that we are arguing between CNCF and Kubeflow Slack over here. So if you don't mind, I can take a step forward to export the current Kubeflow Slack data to CNCF and see how it goes, and also incorporate Matthew's feedback on introducing the CNCF Slack as well in our website. And then we can discuss again.
I don't think we need to do the export. If we give them the export, then they're going to assume that we're going to get rid of our current one. You can still export the data if you want to look at it, but like, since that's what I'm saying, like most people are messaging on private messages, that won't be fixed by this. So this existing Slack needs to continue existing. It's like, all I'm saying is that let's set up the CNCF Slack so that it could be used, and then let's see if someone could use it. We don't need to migrate all the existing development work.
So just to share one thing, so I'm working on the CNCF transition from Google to CNCF, and if we need to wait 1 year, I'm going to let CNCF know that we are not going to migrate our Slack channel.
We'll just start out by, like, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like, it's more like we just start out by, we have both for a period, and then we advertise both, and then we see what happens. Because in the end, it really doesn't matter to us where people are discussing Kubeflow. If people want to use the CNCF Slack and it becomes way bigger, then it makes total sense. Like, I'm happy to help moderate both for the short term.
Matthew, I appreciate that you spend a lot of time on this. I think that you need to realize that there's two opinions here, two paths. And I get that you're passionate about this, but
there is a reason that I'm passionate about this, because I believe that it is important to the future of the project to maintain its own ability to moderate itself in a sense.
Again, I'm not against keeping the Kubeflow Slack workspace. But if you feel like we need two Slack channel, probably that means it's not at the best time to migrate CNCF Slack for now. The reason I want to export the data is to answer Andrew and Amber's question about whether we can have a working group Slack channel for ourselves or any other topic Slack channel for ourselves in CNCF. So this is a usability test by exporting the data, and it's just one time.
Also, to be clear, you're only able to export public data. And as I said, 75% of all messages are happening in private channels.
And this doesn't conflict with your statement over here, right? So if people want to use private data, they can continue using private data on Kubeflow. It doesn't seem like conflicting.
To be clear, we already have Kubeflow channels in the Slack, in the CNCF Slack. We can just market those. That's all I'm trying to say, so that we get the benefit of both. Because most users aren't actively contributing. So if we just keep Kubeflow Slack for definitely contributing, and then have users able to communicate in either, then it's fine.
So from just my last thought on this, from my understanding, just to grow the community, we just need to have one announcement channel, and that's it. Like, I don't really think that we need to have more channels on the Kubeflow Slack, similar to Kubernetes, what they're doing in the announcement channel. But I'm happy to discuss other opinions on this.
Wait, so what are we talking about? Can you explain what you just
like
said
from my understanding, like the growing the community and keeping the Kubeflow Slack just for one channel, which calls announcement, should be sufficient for people who are active on this Slack, you know, like the Kubeflow Slack. You know, other development could go under CNCF, but because I don't see any problems to wherever we just grow the community under CNCF or under the Kubeflow Slack channel.
Well, the reason that I was saying is that it's like the Kubeflow Slack is about Kubeflow, whereas the CNCF Slack is about hundreds of projects. And finding, and that's fine. That means there's lots of people in it, which is great. But like, it means that, you know, if we need to impromptu create like, for example, our election channel or something like that, that just kind of happens randomly, it becomes quite difficult to do that if it's not actually our Slack. And also people just have to browse through thousands of channels to find the ones that are Kubeflow related anyway.
I feel like probably I will give Josh the time to make a decision, since ultimately it's the Kubeflow steering committee's decision on whether to migrate or not. Josh, you don't need to make an answer right now. Like,
Okay, so also I can tell you right now that almost everyone in the CNCF Slack is in none of the application specific channels on the CNCF. There is 111,000 members in general, and the highest number of individual members in a app specific channel is 13,000 on the CNCF Slack. So 95% of members are not in any application specific channel. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we get all the benefits of just having a Kubeflow Slack, of having the CNCF Slack by just having a single Kubeflow channel, which we already do, but then just marketing the fact that people can join it.
I think in that case, probably we would just not migrate to CNCF Slack.
Like, I'm just looking at the stats right now, but that's what Kubernetes did, right? So Kubernetes has a channel, but guess how many members it has? 7,000. Guess how many members the Kubernetes Slack has? Like 100,000.
So sorry, Kubernetes has only like 2 active channels, which is Kubernetes-users and announcement. Like all other channels are kind of like not really active, to be honest, like from my understanding.
I'm not sure that that's necessarily true. It looks like they're pretty active as of yesterday, most channels, just looking at the list. Yeah, people are messaging as of January 11th, so January 10th. Yeah, almost every channel has a message at least once a week on Kubernetes. Which is similar to us, right? Not every channel needs to be active absolutely every single day. The general is active every day in the same way that ours is. Because again, we're not just doing this for random like sake, right? The point of the Slack is to act as a hub for the community. And that's the reason why we shouldn't try, like, doing anything that might break that is a bad idea. That's kind of just what I'm trying to, and we're slowly really building up the current Slack to be like, we've gained 100 users in the last couple of weeks. You know what I mean? On our Slack.
James, do we know like what kind of like pros we're getting from CNCFs, like in general? You said about the metrics, right? Like anything else that we could get from them?
Yeah, what I'm saying is to export the workspace data to CNCF, and that's it. Nothing
I think
else.
We can
like,
always do that, by the way. We can
Yeah.
always do that.
what kind of like pros we're getting from migrating to CNCF? Any kind of metrics from them? Any other like useful information for us to understand, rather than just using the premium Slack?
I think the premium Slack is the main point, and also it's being regulated by the CNCF moderator. So if you have any kind of like code of conduct violation, you can report to them. They can step in and also evaluate the information over there. But other than that, is the paid premium service on Slack that we are getting, and also we can connect with more CNCF projects. If people on Argo or like Knative, right, or others, like they want to reach out, they can find us very easily.
That's why I'm saying we can get all of those benefits, with the exception of the premium Slack, whose primary benefit is that you get all of history rather than 90 days. We can get all those benefits by just maintaining a presence on that Slack, while also keeping our own, which is what Kubernetes does, which is what Helm does. Not Helm, sorry. Which is what there is a couple of other projects, I believe, that do the same thing.
So if I understand correctly, Matthew's idea is to join the CNCF Slack channel. But
just have all of the core contributors, like have all the core contributors in that Slack channel, so that we can answer people's questions if they do pop up. because it already exists. To be clear, that channel that you're talking about, Kubeflow has already got how many members? 203 members. But the last message was on December 12th.
Okay, so can you summarize your proposal kind of in 1 or 2 sentences?
Just one sentence is, for now, we keep all Kubeflow specific development and other work, like we keep the Kubeflow Slack. That's the proposal. We keep the Kubeflow Slack, but then we also try to do a little bit more on the Kubeflow channel of the CNCF Slack. And that's really the proposal. And we leave everything else as it is until we see kind of what happens.
So I assume the proposal is also not to export data to CNCF.
We can export at any time, by the way, so you're always able to export.
Right. Actually, just to share, my main point is to finish the CNCF transition. If we don't export it right now, it's okay. We just tell them we are not going to do that, but we mark the item finish so we can finish the transition.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the rest of the community gets to say, and I think the new steering committee can vote if there's still a disagreement. But yeah, I don't think there's any pain in waiting at least until the steering committee is formed to make the final decision on getting rid of the current Slack. But I think we can definitely say to the CNCF, let's just put this on hold. We're going to mark it. We already have a channel, so we're gonna keep that channel there. We're gonna add it as a link on the Kubeflow community website.
But so,
And yeah,
James, is it correct that we need to get rid of Kubeflow Slack, or it's incorrect? Like if we, even if we're going to migrate to the CNCF?
So we don't necessarily need to get rid of the Kubeflow Slack, but I think previous discussion, Josh mentioned that he doesn't want both Slack workspace to coexist because it's too difficult to manage and also cause confusion to people's mind. So I'm incorporating that feedback as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, like maybe Josh in the next call, like why you think it's not a good idea from the community perspective, like maintaining both, like 2 Slacks.
I think it's just that, I think it's a tax. You know, Matthew makes some compelling argument here, but I do think that we have a hard time keeping our documentation together and, you know, responding to comments in Slack in a timely manner, sometimes. And so there's an expectation here that if we put it in front of the CNCF and we do a bad job there because we're focused on the other Slack, that there'll be negative blowback. And not that I'm so worried about that. It's just, you know, I try to avoid it. Ramesh, you have your hand up?
Yeah, going back to Matthew's point, do we want to maybe take a different approach? I mean, start with 2 Slacks, but give it some amount of time where may that be 3 months, 6 months, and make it come to a conclusion at that point. Seems like it's I see that his points it's probably time sensitive too, right? As we are growing into the CNCF, what coming up, we are not able to predict what's coming there. So maybe if we give both of them a little bit of time, maybe we would be able to make an informed decision at that point rather than have to be this way or that way right now. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we are like kind of on the same page, everybody. I'm just trying to say that like if we don't want to do it right now, it's fine, right? So I can just tell the CNCF that like we will put on hold on the Slack transfer, but ask them whether we can move forward with the Google to CNCF transition. Right.
James, can we do it?
Yeah.
Can we do it later, like, or we need to give them an answer right now during the migration?
Yeah, I can wait later. Like we can have a discussion to talk about this. Like using this meeting. I just want to like share that this is it has been discussed for months. So if
Also,
we are
I
not
believe
going to do
the
that, then let's not do that.
I believe the actual requirement is just that you have a channel, and we already have a channel. We've had a channel always on the
No,
CNCF. Yeah.
it's to like transfer data, but
Oh, no, but that's not a requirement though. Like the actual requirement that was under like the graduation guidelines or whatever was just to have a channel.
okay. So you're talking about a graduation guideline. I'm talking about a transition guideline. So if we don't want to do it, it's fine. If we don't, if we want to keep our own Kubeflow Slack channel, it's okay.
My proposal is that we just start out by having the existing CNCF one be a little bit more public, and then we go from there. And I don't think that's making a decision one way or the other even straight away. But we just pause it. Yeah, we pause this transition, not the transition, but the migration of the Slacks for now.
I guess here's my point is if we're going to support both, we have never had an SLA for either one, but I'm just concerned that if we don't have some form of responses to questions on the CNCF, that's not good. And so
I
I'm
think
fine with doing both, but I think that we need to have some form of coverage for the CNCF Slack.
We
And I
are
don't
talking about a
think-
big difference of scale here, though. Like, unless, like, if we didn't market it, for example, there is only one message a month, let's say, on the Kubeflow CNCF one, which I usually respond to by linking them to the other Slack. But you know,
I would love to, sorry, like I know we're time, like I would love to maybe invite some folks from Argo next call to maybe discuss this first topic, and maybe unblock James and make the final decision from us as a community. Because like when speaking about scale, right, we don't know what people discussing privately, right? And now Kubeflow Slack. So we only know about like 200 active people, right? Who communicate.
500 to 1,000. But yeah.
Okay. 500 people. Like I think
Actually,
like
you're right.
Argo,
Some of those people could be active in, because Slack defines activity as also private messaging. So yeah, we could also be seeing those.
yeah. So we kind of like need to learn from other communities, from Knative, from Argo, because they're also big communities, right? And what the migration looks like, and is it better right now? Is in terms of the like attracting new people from CNCF, right, from other cloud native projects, right? Because I think if we want to grow, we need to be part of other CNCF projects moving forward, right? Because we have a strong relationship with Argo, with Knative, right? Ksurf, like they're using Knative heavily, pipelines using Argo as the underlying components, right? So we're using most of the CNCF project to run this ML infrastructure on Kubernetes in a proper way, right? So we cannot like isolate ourselves as independent community, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. But that doesn't, but like none of those things preclude us having our own Slack. Because again, we do exist on the CNCF Slack. I mean, everyone here is probably a member of the CNCF Slack already.
Just my point, rather than just having the ability to announce something as in the announcement channel, I don't see any other like advantages of having independent Slack, to be honest.
So there's 3 or 4 of them. The main one is that we can add any number of default channels so that when a new user joins the Kubeflow Slack, they get added to, for example, feature requests, general announcements, and I think those are the ones we currently have. So otherwise, what would happen is if they join the CNCF Slack, which they may already be a part of and not realize it, they would have to manually join the Kubeflow Slack. And as I was saying, there are 111,000 CNCF Slack members and only 12,000 in the Argo channel, for example. And that's the biggest, the second biggest, actually. The biggest was Prometheus.
I thought Helm was almost 25,000.
I can check again. Let me check. But
Argo has like almost 13,000 members right now.
Yeah.
Argo City.
So the highest is Prometheus. So the order of channels is general and random, which presumably are default channels. So they both have 110,000. Then there's one called Hallway. No idea what that is, but that's probably a general channel as well. And then you've got Prometheus, which has 13,000, Argo CD, which has 13,000, and then you've got KubeCon, which has 7,000, Kubernetes, which has 7,000, OpenTelemetry, which has 7,000. All I'm trying to say is that while the number of overall users might be very big, there's very little crossover into the actual apps themselves. So we're not getting substantial benefit, except like what Andre was saying about we should be cross-pollinating.
Matthew, you've said a lot. You keep making that assumption, but maybe those communities, just like us, are carrying two Slack channels, right? So if they would get rid of their private Slack channel or their private Slack instance and just move everything over, they probably would see an increase, or maybe they wouldn't. Maybe that's their upside. Maybe there were only 13,000. But you know, I still think we have to think about this riding two horses, right? And coverage. So somehow maybe there's a new title or something that someone has to, you know, pager duty, Slack duty. Somebody's got CNCF Slack duty for 90 days or something, right? It's not meaning that you have to answer them all. It's just that you have to find somebody to help answer some of the questions or whatever. But I'm just cautious not to cover this properly, especially if James is being asked to do this during the transition. I want to support Google's efforts and Google's standing with the CNCF. They've done a lot for us, and they're asking for you know, help here, right? So you made many good points, Matthew, and I think everybody kind of sees what you're saying.
Yep. Thank you, Josh. We probably should. Can I just quickly, before everyone else, the Kubeflow Notebooks 2.0 first meeting is happening on Thursday. So if you happen to still be in the meeting and want to attend that, I just put it in. I didn't quite get to it in the main agenda. Please. So if you want to contribute to Kubeflow Notebooks 2.0 or you have ideas about it, please come to the meeting on Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific. It's the Kubeflow Notebooks working group meeting. Or comment if you can't attend on the issue that's linked in the community doc. Sorry, I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think we're over time, so I appreciate everybody staying with this. And some of these issues are very difficult to come to fruition and make a decision. We'll have to get better decision makers. And they're on the way, hopefully soon. So I appreciate everybody's help. I think, you know, for that today, I think we've covered a lot. We should let people go. And then let's get the agenda really set up for next week. Well, if you have items, let's get them on there, and let's try to push things to a decision point faster if we can. Go ahead, Ramesh.
I have one time-sensitive one. I wanted to bring it up if you guys can spare me 1 minute.
Sure.
I'm sure everybody here is familiar with the Google Summer of Code. Their application for organizations is ending next week, I think 21st. I see that Kubeflow is not represented as an organization there. I just wanted to ask if there is any interest from the group here to have, maybe put an organization application in there so that we can get some interns looking at our projects and probably helping us with some of the community efforts here. I don't mind being the organizer for all that, to doing the Google Summer of Code organizer and kind of collect the ideas from all of you. I can put in a document together and submit and do the administrative stuff myself with somebody else. But I just wanted to see if there is a general interest, then I will go ahead and send out some emails and try to organize that.
So do you have a group of people who are willing to do the mentorship? Because isn't it mostly a mentorship thing?
Exactly. That's what I'm looking for, is if there is an interest, if you want to put together a idea and willing to mentor towards that idea from, whatever you are contributing, Matthew, anybody else, right? we can capture those ideas in a document and I can submit and I can take the administrative portion of it. But, yeah, the ideas needs to be coming from you guys and
So yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a really great point. I think we did it once in 2020. So we participated as several projects in GSOC, in Google Summer of Code. But if you can volunteer to help us with this year, that would be awesome. And I can help you with the projects from different like part of Kubeflow that we can like offer for the students.
But to be clear, the project gets a little bit of benefit with free labor because, like, for example, there are a bunch of engineering talent usually who can code, and having another contributor effectively, maybe if we get lucky, they might stay on afterwards.
Yes, exactly. That's the point. And also, most of these kids are, most of the students coming from the, colleges and fresh out of, so we also teach them, acquaintance with the Kubeflow. So they may, wherever they go, in a job, they may bring their Kubeflow experience there, keep contributing or bring those Kubeflow into their organization, right? So it's a win-win for everything for us. So I will send an email a little later on today and asking to collect the ideas and collect the mentors' names because time is really short. I
When's the deadline?
21st is the deadline to submit to the as an organization. But so we have like literally 4 or 5 days. So if you can put even a couple lines in there to begin with, then we can go back, refine that once we get accepted. That would be great. So let's get.
How many students do we have to take?
They don't really tell you how many students they will give you. You can put as many proposals as you want. I mean, so from let's say we can from notebooks perspective, we can put like 10 proposals if you want, but you may only get one student. So let's say we have like 10 different proposals. We may get only 5 students allocated to it. So we would have to at that time see what that student is interested in. Maybe we can spread among ourselves, which one is more important at that point, based on the student interest and what he applied for and how many they allocated to this organization. So it's not a one-to-one always. So just remember that. So even though we have 10 proposals, we may get one student. But more proposals, obviously more students.
So do we have to participate as an organization or can it just like a single group within the group do it?
No, it has to be an organization and it has to be an open source organization.
Oh, no, of course. But what I mean is like, say we only make a proposal from pipelines.
That's fine. I mean, we can go as a Kubeflow organization and, if there is only notebooks, pipelines is the only one who is participating, that's fine, right? It's not otherwise, we have to submit an application for each Kubeflow pipelines, Kubeflow, notebooks, model registry. We would have to segment them, but that's not really appreciated at the Google GeoCC level, what we have seen.
So have you personally got resource to do the mentoring for at least one person?
I have done many years of mentoring on the Google Summer of Code as a mentor, not as an administrator. I actually invited a colleague of mine from Red Hat who does the active administrator to talk about this, but he had to drop out. So, but with his help, I can put together the application for Kubeflow. That's not, but
So I feel like this is a steering committee vote thing. I know that there's only 2 members, but those 2 members should probably vote. So Josh and James, you're referring to you here. Taking an action as the community clearly requires the steering committee.
I don't see any reason why the steering committee would block this.
Of course, I'm just making sure.
We already done it right before it was 2020. Like we did several projects for the notebooks, for a volumes UI and for the KTP UI. Maybe I think it was something from KF serving as well. Maybe I'm missing something here, but it was quite straightforward. So
yeah,
don't see any issues. If you can just Ramesh, if you can start this right, like
yeah, I will do that later today, and
okay.
just watch in the Google groups, and I will also put it in the Slack on the general channel with the document. Great, thanks a lot, guys.
Oh, and by the way, but while we're here, Andre, do you have a quick update on your Spark operator thing so that we don't cut you off?
Yeah, we're almost over time. Like, I don't know, do we want to discuss right now? Because I guess we already discussed with James, but Josh, what do you think? Like, should we discuss it in 2 minutes or we should postpone it?
Whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's so for the updates of everyone, like, right? So we kind of like, so I guess, James, you reach out to folks from Google to see how we can make it transfer. And the problem is that even the legal discussion already started. The transfer might take a while, maybe several months. We don't know yet. And I already reached out to Spark operator folks to see what we should do here. Like, should we wait until the final transfer, or we should make a fork right now and then once the Google is ready, just make it transfer? Because from my side, like, I don't think we should fork it for the long term, because like we're going to lose even with the GitHub CLI tool, we lose the stars and issues on the repo completely, which might be problematic because Spark operator has like around 1,000 issues today, and several PRs.
Oh, we definitely want to transfer the repo. Why wouldn't we be able to do that?
Because transfer might take up to like several months, like maybe 3-4 months. I don't know, right?
But why?
Because
It
it's,
will take at
yeah.
least probably months, like at least months, probably longer.
Yeah.
But why is this the case? Is there some technical problem or is it a
It's a
procedure
process,
problem?
right? Like,
It's very complicated. I'm not the process, but basically we have an open source program office that needs to review the transfer. Also need to do a lot of evaluation as well, but it takes quite a long time from the past history.
Have we started that process yet, or is it just like, because like I guess we could put a deadline which says like if it fails to happen in 3 months, then we do it ourselves. And also, is it possible for the short term to give some ability to us to maintain on the existing repo short term?
So-
We started the process
Good.
half a year ago,
Really?
and it's not finished yet.
Yep.
If you want to set a deadline, probably that's a good idea as well. If the time pass 3 months and it doesn't happen, then maybe you can go with the forking option.
Because I
No,
just think it looks really bad as a community to do that for so many reasons. Because it looks like it's not a legitimate donation then.
So I can understand that this process might take a year, like from the start. And Martin already started this process back in September 2023, right? So that is fine to wait, I think. I think we just need to see like what's like the folks from Spark operator team will decide, like the Vara, Chauran, and Martin on this front. Because for the short term, we can fork it and then just make it transfer. Because my proposal was to make a release for Kubeflow 1.9, we just fork it and make the release, and then in the future we just make the official transfer once the Google site will be finished. But I just want to hear the thoughts from the Spark operator maintainers on this. James, from your perspective, like, do you see any problems with this solution?
Which was your solution, forking or not forking?
So just the forking for one release, and then when we are ready, just make a transfer.
But that means you've that causes massive issues. Like,
Yeah, they probably like they probably give a signal to the reviewer saying that like we have chosen to fork
Okay.
report.
Yeah, I understand.
Then they will say, okay, my job is done here. I will stop.
so what are they actually reviewing? I'm confused what they could possibly be reviewing.
But that could be, I mean, Mati, there could be several like procedure things, right, that we cannot control, right? Like, it's not up to us to help them to review it, right?
Oh, I
It's-
understand, but I'm just trying to understand because I thought that they were willingly donating this.
So there are different departments at Google, right? So
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Google Cloud Platform, GitHub repo, is the owner of the organization, which is currently holding the Kubernetes Spark operator repo. So we need this organization to initiate the transfer to Kubeflow, right? So we need their approval. So yeah, the process is very long. I'm sorry that it happens in this way, but like the process is very long also from the past experience. So Bob from Google side, like he's just making a suggestion to say maybe we can consider that, but I'm not pushing us towards this direction. If we can transfer the repo, that's awesome. That's the best situation forward. But just want to share this information with you ahead of time so you can get prepared for what is coming. And also you can have a choice, right, to decide what to do.
So do we have any communication with the team that's working on that transfer at all? Or is it just they're in a void kind of we're on a backlog somewhere?
Like I said, I'm working with them, but the process is currently very slow.
So like if we could
So
get
maybe-
some clarification from them that they're actively doing something, then that would probably be enough for us to, you know what I mean, be happy, right?
They're,
So-
they're pretty active. Like they are working on this subject. Basically, they reply to my message immediately. But they still need to involve a lot of process. They need to reach out to different people. They need to evaluate the repo, transfer everything, right?
So James, I think like we should say them that our intention is just to make the official transfer, and if we could somehow get like some estimate timeline, whether it's like a month, half a year, just at least something from that, that would be awesome, right? Like I understand probably.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I appreciate that. And actually, I am on the same page with you because I asked them the same question,
Okay.
and they are not able to provide an estimate.
Yeah, I understand.
That's where I feel important to tell you that, right?
Yes. But I mean, it feels like it will probably all happen at once, right? At some point, everything that they need to tick off will be ticked off and we'll just be able to do it, right? So maybe there's like a minimum that we could ask for is like, so is there a tracking issue? I know there will be internal tracking issues, but I mean, like, do we have a public place where they can communicate with the community?
Yeah, so we have the onboarding issue on the community Kubeflow Slack. Oh, sorry, on the community Kubeflow GitHub, right? So we can comment it there. I mean, we can ask folks from Google James to comment it there if they're allowed to do so as well. We can track like all the process there. What do you think about it?
So like,
yeah,
yeah,
great.
I doubt they will, but
Makes sense. But like, please ping me from time to time, right? I can nudge them and check for their progress, right? Manually.
so like if we could ask them, even if it's just something as simple as, I know it probably is internal, but like if there's anything we could help to make it easier for them.
Right now, no. But thank you for offering the help. Yeah.
So yeah, at very least, let's write, if you yourself could write an update with what you've said in that issue, like just a quick one, you know, saying like, hey, we've got the team at Google working on it. They can't give us a timeline right now, but you know what I mean? Like, so that at least the community is aware of it. And then I think as a community, if we haven't had any further updates from yourself in like a month, then we can discuss what it means to fork it. But I really don't want to do that unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah, I think it's up to you, right? Like if you ask me to provide update, I can provide an update. But like also know that my information is also limited. There's nothing else than just providing that we are working on it. Yeah, so
Because also another thing to be aware of is that there are a lot of big companies that have forked this already into their own private stuff, and that's where they're maintaining it. And so it would be nice if we could have the official one move, and then everyone's like, you can actually contribute back to the official one now, you know?
oh yeah, so regarding the forking repo, so the Marcin, like because he's the repo owner, right? So he can actually archive the original repo and make an update in the README file saying that please direct to Kubeflow for continuing using the product going forward. So we basically in the repo scope, we can make such changes to redirect people, but just not automatically redirect. Right,
So yeah, the big things we lose. Okay, so like if we're gonna say it as the things we lose are 2,500 stars, which doesn't really matter. We can easily get that back. The watches, there's 87 people watching it, which that is quite hard. We lose the fork history, which is really big. Like that we lose the metric because what we would actually have to do is so that it doesn't on GitHub show up as fork of X, you know what I mean? We would have to actually create a new repo without clicking the fork button. Well, that's a discussion. Obviously, we could also have it because otherwise, permanently, GitHub will show that this is a fork of this repo. You know. And then the other things we will lose are pull requests and issues, of which there are 500 issues and 74 pull requests. Most of which are Dependabot. If we exclude Dependabot,
I think we should summarize it. I think, James, you got our point, right? Like our intention, and let's just see how it goes. And also, I need to get the feedback from actually Spark operator maintainers to move this forward. But I appreciate your help for this. Thank you, James.
Yeah, thank you for the patience as well. So I just want to kind of share the information as much as I can. But please know that like the community behind the scene, like the open source community in Google is trying to get the approval. The problem is like it's not it's not able to provide an estimate about when it can happen. So I will let Angie to try this effort, but if you need me, I can forward the information as much as I can.
but since we don't know a timeline, it could be as soon as 1 month away, right? It could be.
It could be any time. Like basically, I don't know.
Yeah, anyway, we don't need to belabor that too much. Thank you so much for your effort, James. And Andre, obviously, you're the one who has connections with the existing maintainers. If they're not happy with a 1 month, potentially 2 month, 3 month delay, then that's up to them, I guess, in the end. You're muted, Andre.
I just need to drop. Thank you, thanks, Roman. Yeah, I think we kind of like we're over time. It's like 40 minutes, but appreciate everyone's help and thank you for giving us time for speaking about it, Josh. All right, so if you don't have anything else, I think we can finish the call, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roman. See you soon.
Thanks.
Bye bye.